Part 9. But let's continue so I can show you a couple of interesting facts, if I may say so myself. Quote, through warfare and raids, Native American women were often captured to be traded, sold, or taken as wives. Listen up. At first, the colony generally imported African men to use as slave labor because of the heavy work of clearing to develop plantations. Over time, it also imported African women as slaves. Stop bingo. Why bingo, you ponder? Well, if you look in Wikipedia under Slave Breeding in the United States, subtitle Dynamics, Demographics, it says, quote, in a study of 2,588 slaves in 1860 by the economist Richard Such, he found that on slave holdings with at least one woman, the average ratio of women to men exceeded 2 to 1. The imbalance was greater in the selling states, where the excess of women over men was 300 per 1,000. And seeing the white man tried their best to wait until slavery was over, thus no financial loss to start killing us, and seeing men were imported for the heavy lifting first, to me that can only mean our perfidious enemies were pumping out women of strange flesh and ill repute like they took a page out of the Federal Reserve playbook. You know, quantitative easing by flooding the streets with worthless money. But wait! For that was only the interesting, tricky part. The interesting Big Thick Newton is an eyewitness account of the slave trade in Africa. Let me set it up for you. As you know, the world would love for you to accept the fallacy that African tribes waged war against each other and sold the clean, decent, and innocent white man the human spoils. Mind you now, any interpersonal relationship simpleton, foreign relationship statesman, or reproductive specialist worth their salt could tell you there is no way in Hades neighboring tribes could statistically produce enough war booty that has two meanings to sustain that type of sudden mass exodus of Africans. Nevertheless, sustain enough people to fight the wars in the first place. Now wait a minute, before you think that I'm some type of conspiracy nut, a revisionist historian, or simply don't believe me because I'm colored. Listen to this eyewitness account from the horse's mouth, and you be the judge. According to Wikipedia under Dutch Slave Coast, cutting to the chase, quote, according to a 1670 report, annually 2,500 to 3,000 slaves were transported from Africa to the Americas, and writing of the 1690s. Bosman commented of the trade at FIDA, personal quote, markets of men are here kept in the same manner as those of beasts are with us. Listen extremely close. Numbers of slaves declined in times of conflict. From 1688 onward, the struggle between the Aja king of Aga and the peoples of the coastal regions impeded the supply of slaves. The Dutch West Indies Company chose the side of the Aja king, causing the Afra office to be destroyed by opposing forces in 1692. After this debacle, Dutch involvement on the slave coast came more or less to a halt. Example, wow! Did you hear that eyewitness account from an actual slave trader? Amazing! We all know what the word decline means, but just in case someone out there is like me and isn't highly educated, Google tells us the word impede means delay or prevent by obstructing them, hinder, hamper, handicap, hold back, hold up, interfere with, disrupt, retard, slow, break, put a brake on, restrain, fetter, shackle, hamstring, cramp, crimple, block, bar, curb, stop, thwart, frustrate, foil, derail, stymie. To me, when I take this and utilize everything I know into one thought process, in this case to me, the understanding that 5 major powerhouses not only waited their turn to occupy and buy merchandise on the exact same island without even a beatdown between the lot, but the very fact decency and order was maintained by black chicks with no origin backstory, to me that can only mean our African Area 51 understanding is a dead ringer. But let's not let little things like rewriting history slow us down. Let's continue for more clues, shall we? Under free people of color, cutting to the chase. Quote, a wealthy white man could have 2 or more families, one legal and the other not. Their mixed race children became the nucleus of, not all, but became the nucleus of the class of free people of color in Louisiana and Saint Domingue. Listen up. After the Haitian Revolution in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, many refugees came to New Orleans, adding a new wave of French-speaking free people of color. Stop. Wait a minute. Let me see if I got this correct. After a conflict, we see a population increase of well-to-do French-speaking black people in the Americas. Interesting. Interesting indeed. Listen to this and tell me if you hear anything similar. According to the Free Republic, under Africans coming across southern border have rolls of $100 bills. June 16th, 2019. Quote, the poor huddled masses coming across the southern border may not be so poor after all. Swiss journalist Urs Goering recently visited African migrants who breached the border and hung out on the streets of San Antonio, Texas, waiting to go elsewhere in the country. And he was met with hostility from people who didn't want to share details about their experiences, conflicted each other, and had rolls of $100 bills. In a recording played on Fox News, the best news ever, in a recording played on Fox News, Goering asked a migrant from Congo how she got to America. She refused to say. Personal quote, we are here now in the United States. Why do you ask about Ecuador? You didn't say nothing about no damn Ecuador, but that's what she said. A woman said, referring to the reported country they passed through. Example, buckle up, buttercups. Like I said before, I think the evildoers' playbook is already on the table and we are stealing their signals. In this case to me, I believe the black people that have mysteriously overrun the Mexican borders are replicas of the original African groups with an S and have been dispatched to prey, pounce, play, and become you and I. But that's just me. Let's finish this out with a confirmation death blow, shall we? Quote, during the period of French and Spanish rule, the free people of color came to constitute a third class in New Orleans and other former French cities between the white Creoles and the mass of black slaves. They had certain status and rights and often acquired education and property. Listen up. Later, their descendants became leaders in New Orleans, holding political office in the city and state, and became part of what developed as the African American middle class in the United States. Example, bingo, behold, your eternal perfidious enemies before your eyes.